That was Annie and Finn, my two Australian Shepherds. Y'all were asking to see my dog, so there they are. This week I watched the 2024 Seller Spring Check-In from eBay so that you don't have to. It's a video that eBay puts out every quarter. They talk about changes to their products and their support for sellers across eBay. And in this one, there's some interesting information in there. The most interesting thing I saw in that video is that they're bringing Terapeak to the mobile app. Most of y'all probably know that Terapeak is like a product research tool. You can use it today through My eBay. If you go to My eBay and click research, and you can get into this Terapeak product research interface. And the big difference, the main benefit of using Terapeak is that it has historical sales data going back 3 years. It used to be 2 years, but they just recently upped it to 3, but it's never been available on mobile, which means if you're doing comp research out in the field, you're searching for active listings, you're switching over to sold listings. It's not a super great interface, but Terapeak is supposed to be the product that you use as a seller to do your research. But again, it's never been available on mobile, but it's apparently coming very soon. It's going to be available on mobile. Looks pretty good just based on the video here. And so we'll wait and see over the coming months when eBay rolls this out just how useful it is. But I think it's going to be pretty nice. I'm looking forward to it. Let's jump into a few viewer questions. Okay, Handy Historian asks, would be great to hear some more about your tips and tools for removing store pricing stickers and shipping labels from boxes to reuse if you do that. I've nearly given up on a few items because the sticker was so annoying to get off. Agreed. I think thrift stores use probably the stickiest stickers available. I get it. They're doing that to prevent theft and prevent people from swapping stickers and all that, but it is a pain when you get home and try to remove those stickers and have difficulty. But I do have a lot of tools in my arsenal for getting rid of stickers. The big tools that I use are, I think they're called Scotty peelers. I'll link to them in the description and throw a photo up here, but they're little plastic tools, and it comes with one metal one that you can use to pry stickers off instead of having to use your fingernails. That's usually the first step that I do, is use those tools to see if I can get it off. If that doesn't get it off, depending on what material the sticker is stuck to, I might try some 90% ISO alcohol to wetten it, dampen it, to loosen some of that adhesive there. That usually works. That's also really good if you get the sticker off, but it leaves a residue. I've found that a product like Goo Gone is nice, but expensive, and you don't need to necessarily buy that. ISO alcohol tends to do just as well in getting that stuff off. I also have a heat gun that I use if a label is really difficult to get off. Heat gun will basically heat that glue up and loosen it and make it easier to peel it off. So try one of those as well. All right, let's jump into the top 10 sales of the week, and I'll be answering other viewer questions sprinkled throughout those top 10 sales. So stick around to see the answers to those questions. Let's take a look at my numbers. For the last 7 days, I've had a gross income of $1,017 and a net income of $601. That's a 681% ROI of the past week and a 54% net profit margin. So things still continue to be pretty slow on eBay, although things are ramping up for me. I've not been a good reseller as of late. I'm going to scroll down here and you'll see over the last 7 days, I've only had 13 new listings. I've had family in town for Easter. I've not had a ton of time to focus directly on sourcing and listing, and so my sales have suffered because of that. But I've still had 26 sales, so I've had a good backlog of inventory that has sold at a pretty good clip over the past week. My average time to sell over the past week is 3 months. That just means the inventory that I was selling had an average age of being listed for 3 months, which is about average. That's about where I sit. And I spent a total of $84 on new inventory over the past week. Coming in at number 10 is this Kohler Ealing Assist Bar. This is from Goodwill. I paid $4.74. It is I think it's like an ADA compliant bar that you would install in your bathroom, and it's a grab bar that you might put next to a toilet to assist somebody getting on and off the toilet or in or out of the shower, something along those lines. It sold for $31.98. That's $24.99 plus $6.99 in shipping. My net return for the 10th best flip of the week was only $13.35. So usually when I do my top 10 sales, the net return, even for number 10, the lowest one on the list, is usually in the 20s or so. So this just shows you that things have been relatively slow on eBay over the past week for me. Coming in at number 9 is this TrackPhone flip phone. So yes, flip phones still sell. This one was new in the packaging. TrackPhone, I guess, is like a budget service provider. I'm not exactly sure, but I got it at a flea market last summer. I paid $5. It sold for $29.99. It took 8 months to sell, so it took a while. The net return was $15.88 and a 318% ROI on this. And so not many people are going to know that these things have value. I didn't know that they had value probably until I got this one and I looked it up, but it had some decent value, $30, So track phones, flip phones, definitely still going to have some value, especially if they're new in the package. packaging like this one. Let's hear another user question here. Joel asks, I have a question about listing items and the shipping part of things. I'm using calculated shipping option. Do I need to pre-package and weigh my items so that I can put in the package details before I list it? Or otherwise, the customer wouldn't be able to see a shipping price, I assume. Do you just make a guesstimate? Thanks. Yeah, so when you do list something on eBay, depending on how you ship it, you do have to put in the information first. How much it weighs, what the dimensions are. If you use calculated shipping, eBay is going to use those dimensions and that weight to calculate a shipping cost to then charge the buyer. So if you use calculated shipping, you want to be as accurate as possible. You don't want to overestimate because that's going to charge too much for the buyer and they might be less likely to buy it from you because your shipping is going to be more expensive than competitors. Also, you don't want to miscalculate too low because your shipping will be lower than what it costs you to ship and you'll lose money on the deal. So if you're using calculated shipping, it does make sense to have a good idea of how much the size of the box and the weight of the item is going to be when you ship it so that you can get pretty accurate measurements. I do not use calculated shipping. I do what's called like flat shipping rates. And that doesn't mean like using USPS flat rate boxes. I don't use that. It just means that I have preset shipping amounts that are flat no matter what. And so I use eBay business policies to create these flat shipping rates. And so I have a flat shipping rate of $6.99, $9.99, $14.99, $24.99. I have just different rates there. And so when I'm going to list something, I sort of know which one it's going to fit into the closest. And so I do this because pre-measuring and pre-packaging your stuff at listing time increases the amount of time it takes to list by a lot. And I'm all about listing as much as I possibly can, as quickly as I possibly can. And so I try to remove anything that's going to add additional time to the listing process. So I don't do any sort of pre-weighing or pre-packaging at all. And I've just been doing this long enough. I can eyeball a thing and know basically how much it weighs and roughly what size box it's going to go into. And so I know what sort of flat shipping policy I'm going to put it in. And I know roughly the maximum amount that it's going to take for me to ship something from where I'm at to the furthest part of the country that my business policies allow. And so that just comes through time and experience. And so if you're just starting out, I do recommend that you spend a little bit more time during the listing process to know exactly how much it's going to weigh and the box it's going to go into and put all that very accurate information into the listing itself and do calculated shipping. Over time, though, you're going to learn and it's going to become kind of second nature to know how much it'll cost to ship something. And so you can sort of migrate away from those more strict ways of doing it to speed up your listing process once you gain that experience. Coming in at number 8 are these Woodstock wind chimes. These are interesting. These said that they were of the chimes of Mars. I have no idea what that means. I don't know what Mars is supposed to sound like, but I didn't hang these up. They were brand new. They only sold in 18 hours, if you can believe that. We got them at a St. Vincent de Paul for $3. $29.98 is what they ended up selling for. Our net return for the 8th best flip was $17.90. Almost a 600% ROI on that one. I'm really curious what the chimes of Mars sound like. Do y'all know what the chimes of Mars would sound like? No idea, but that was the 8th best flip of the week. Coming at number 7 is this Nike synthetic fill reversible coat. This thing I have had for about a month. So I got this guy at Savers. I paid $11.90, paid up a little bit. Kind of the challenge with buying a Nike jacket like this is it's really hard to identify Nike pieces, like to know the exact model that someone might be searching for. And so usually they don't have a style code that is specific to the individual styles. They have a style code, but it just, if you search for that style code, you'll get results for all sorts of things like jackets and shirts and pants and shoes and all of that. Style code was not helpful in figuring out what jacket this was, so I was just pretty generic about it. I called it a synthetic fill. It was a reversible jacket. It was a puffer looked like it might have been golf related. I just threw a bunch of terms in there, and it sold in about a month for $46.98. My net return was $19.46 for the 7th best flip of the week. Only 164% ROI because that purchase price was pretty high getting it at a thrift store like that. All right, let's look at another viewer question here. Deal Dishing Mom asks, do you look up everything you buy or do you just take a chance on items? Or have you been doing this a while and you just know things that will sell? So that's a really good question. I do a lot of looking things up. Obviously, I do less looking of things up than I did, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because over time you just learn more and more about what's valuable, but I still look stuff up every single day. I also grab stuff without looking it up every single day because I already know that it's going to be worth reselling. So I'd say it's about 50-50 that something I buy, I know is going to be worth something and I don't need to to look it up versus I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be worth something, or I want to verify that it has a good sell-through rate, or I need to see if the market values have shifted based on the last time that I've sold something. So I still do a lot of looking up of stuff. Coming at number 6 is this Dodge Ram pickup truck master window switch. So if y'all watch the channel, you'll know that I sell these on a weekly basis. I got a huge box of all these window switches. This is yet another one going out the door. This is the gift that keeps on giving. I had a $3 cost of goods on this. I bought a whole box of them, or it was actually a couple boxes for $200. So I just took the total number of switches that were in those couple of boxes and divided it by the total cost to get the purchase price per item, which was right around $3. This one sold for $31.49. The prices for these things are all over the place. Sometimes they sell for $20. Sometimes they sell for $80. I've sold them for over $100 as well, but this one was a little bit cheaper, $24.50 plus $6.99 in shipping. My net return was $19.65 and a 655% ROI. Coming in at number 5 is this vintage Sunbeam branded toaster. So these Sunbeam toasters and vintage toasters like this can be extremely valuable. I got this one at a estate sale. I paid $10. The thing is, it's very often that they don't work as they should. And so it's a little bit of a gamble at $10, not being able to fully test it while you're at an estate sale. I did plug it in and it did turn on, but once I got it home and tested it fully, some of the mechanisms inside were not working as they should. And so this is a auto drop. It means that you put the toast in there, and if it's plugged in, it's going to automatically drop down and turn on and then pop back up when it's done, which I guess for the time when this thing was manufactured, that was a pretty state-of-the-art thing. But they're very, very desirable. If this thing was in working condition, it would have been worth probably around $150. But even in needs repair condition, used for parts with no returns on it, it sold for $56.98. That's $49.99 plus $6.99 in shipping. So again, even in non-working condition, this thing made me some pretty good money. The 5th best flip of the week, net return of $22.37 and an ROI of 224%. So that's why I don't mind taking a risk on this one. I knew even if it didn't work, I'd still make some decent money on it at $10. Coletto7838 asks, question, what percentage of what you sell do you get full list price versus what you accept an offer on? It seems like I'm taking an offer on 80% of what I'm selling, and I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong. I allow offers in everything I list. Do you? Thanks. So really good questions. I don't know. I actually don't know what percentage. If I broke it down, I would say maybe half, 50-50 sells for full price, while the rest sell on offer. I don't add best offers on my listings very often. In fact, most of my listings don't. But what I do is very regularly jump in and send offers out to watchers and viewers of my listings. So that's where a majority of those sales are coming from, are not because I have best offers turned on, but because I send best offers out. Typically, I price my items on the high end of the range, knowing that I'm probably going to send an offer out at, usually I send a 10% offer out on that. Coming in at number 4 is this American Girl doll. This thing I bought at an estate sale for $3. It sold for $49.98, and my net return was $33.36. So American Girl is a very good brand of dolls. Pretty easy to identify. Just flip up the hair on the back and look on the back of the neck. Once you know it's an American Girl doll, there's all sorts of variations depending on when it was manufactured and by whom. And so you can just do some Google searches to find out exactly how to identify the individual dolls and what year they're from. It's a pretty easy process. This one ended up being a specific doll named Josephina from 2008. It took 3 days to sell, and it was the 4th best flip of the week, $33.36. Coming in at number 3 is this Iron Man cardigan sweater. This thing I got at Savers. I paid $13.60. It sold for $89.98. It's an incredible price for a piece of used clothing like this. The brand is Muster brand. I had never heard of that brand before, but I recognize this as being a Marvel piece, as being an Iron Man piece. There was a little Iron Man logo on there, and there was another little logo thing on the back. It was a really cool sweater. I'm not a big Iron Man fan, but I knew that somebody was going to really like this. But this was just a really good find. It took 2 months to sell. I knew it was going to take a while. The sell-through rate wasn't really all that good, but there wasn't a whole lot of competition. There wasn't many out there like it, but it sold for $89.98. Like I said, the net return was $57.54 for the 3rd best flip of the week. It's a 423% ROI. Basically anything Marvel, anything Disney, it's going to catch my eye, and I will at least look it up to see. This one I had a really good feeling it was going to be worth something, and I was right. Happened to be right on this one. Let's look at another viewer question here. DH Latin 1965 asked, just found your channel, lots of great info, thanks. Thank you. I have a question about promoted listings. In a previous video, listing in under 4 minutes, you promoted everything at 2%. I normally do 6%. eBay normally recommends around 12%. I'm thinking of dropping to a lower percentage and wondering why you chose the 2% number. So I do have another video entirely about promoted listings. I'll link it up top and down below. But I do promote every single one of my items. Well, not every single one, but 99% of them I use promoted listings on. And I do use 2% on basically all of them because it is the lowest. That's why I chose it. I want to spend the least amount of money to get promoted listings out. I've not done a whole lot of testing with higher percentages. When you set a 2% promoted listing rate on your listings, what that means is that you're going to be charged 2% of the final cost as an additional fee for promoting your listing. And the higher percentage you give it, the more frequently eBay is going to promote that particular listing. 2% is going to be the lowest. If you were to promote it at 50%, that thing is going to get promoted all the time and likely sell much quicker, but you're going to pay 50% of the final sale cost in fees back to eBay. And so, of course, eBay is incentivized to get you to pay the most and the highest percentage on that because they make more money on it. But that's just a suggestion. I don't know what calculation they use to suggest promoted listing percentages, but it's usually much, much higher than I would ever feel comfortable doing. And I always do 2% just because it's the lowest. So nothing really scientific going on there. I just want to promote my listings. I want to stand out a little bit more, but I don't want to pay a ton more money to do that. And by the way I justify using promoted listings and giving eBay yet another 2% on top of the 12, 13, 14, 15% that I already give them. Think about it this way. If you were selling something for $100 and a buyer came along and said, I'll give you $98 for that, would you take that deal? In almost all situations, I would take that deal 2% off. And so promoting your listings at 2% is basically like taking a 2% discount. Now the buyer doesn't get that, but eBay does. And so from my perspective, I don't really care who gets it. If it means my product is going to sell a lot faster, then I'm definitely willing to pay 2% of that sale cost to get it to sell faster. But promoted listings are not for everyone. You don't have to use them. There's certain categories of items where it does not make sense to use them. Again, the name of the game with eBay is to get, the higher up in the search results your listings are, the more sales you're going to get. Using promoted listings is a way to hack your way up there and pay your way to the top of that list. But if the thing that you're selling doesn't have a lot of competition, you're not competing against people to try to get those top slots, paying eBay to get moved to the top doesn't make much sense. And so if you're selling unique, one-of-a-kind items or rare items, it makes less sense to use promoted listings. But if you're selling something that has a ton of competition, it makes more sense. All right, coming in at number 2 is this 1930s pennant baseball glove. So if you watched the video last week, you'll know that I bought this at a weird estate sale that was in a warehouse. It was like a moving company that was selling people's stuff that they never picked up out of their moving truck or never paid for out of their moving truck. And so it was a pretty interesting place to source. And I ended up finding this baseball glove that I obviously was old. I could tell it was old, was not in very good condition. And it met the criteria for me to run an auction. So I rarely run auctions. Maybe twice a year I will find something that I think is going to make a good auction. This was one of them. So it was pretty fun to watch and see how much it was going to go for. I started the auction at like $30 and got quite a few bids early on, and it was quiet throughout the week. And then of course, right at the end of that auction, it was hammered, by people using snipe bidding products to get their bid in at the last minute. And it shot up all the way to $69.88. And I had $14.99 of shipping on there. So it ended up selling for $84.87. Pretty cool piece, $62.28 for the second best flip of the week. But this was just a really interesting piece of history that I could find no information on. There was no comps. There were similar comps, but nothing exactly like this. Nothing from this Freddie Lindstrom, who's a Hall of Famer from the 1930s. And so it was in a category that has high demand, which is sports memorabilia. It had a unknown market value. I had no idea how to price it. There was no comps to help me determine what a fixed price would be for it. And there was really no supply. There was no comps out there. So high demand, low supply, and unknown market value. Those are the 3 criteria that you want to look for when you run an auction. Because if you run an auction for something that has a lot of supply, why would somebody pick an auction versus the many buy it nows out there? Most people don't want to wait around to get their purchase. Or if the demand is very low, you're just going to get nobody bidding on it. Or worse, you're going to get one person bidding on it. And really what you want are a bunch of people bidding on it to shoot it up. And if it has a known market value, you want to do a fixed price, buy it now, because if you know the market value of it, you want to get the market value of it. And by running an auction, you run the risk of getting less than the market value on that. And so anyway, all three of those criteria were met. I ran this auction. I think it did pretty well. I was hoping for $50. I got $84, so I'm very happy with that. Coming in at number 1 is this Brizzo wall-mounted towel ring. So this is an interesting brand of high-end kitchen and bath wear. And so I've never heard of this brand before. I was at a weird garage sale that was at a bed and bath store. I have no idea why they were having a garage sale, but they had a bunch of stuff marked down really low. I bought this for $10. The comps on it, I couldn't find an exact comp, but there were a lot of comps of this Brizzo brand that were really high. And so this one sold for $110.49. It took a month to sell, but the net return on it was $76.79 for the best flip of the week. That's a 768% ROI. I would definitely be keeping an eye out for this Brizzo brand. Sounds like it's like a Kohler brand, but much higher end. And so if I see it again, I'm definitely going to be picking it up, but I don't think it's going to be one that I'm going to see laying around a whole lot. And I kind of wish I would have bought more of it at that weird garage sale, because they did have more. I bought a few pieces, but I didn't buy all of them, and I probably should have bought all of them. That's okay. Best flip of the week, this Brizzo wall-mounted towel ring. $76.79 was the net return on it. Looking at those numbers again, this week I sold $1,017 worth of inventory at a net income of $601. Only listed 13 things, but had 26 sales. I really need to ramp those listings up, and that's what I plan on doing this week, is getting as much stuff as I can get listed and doing a lot of good sourcing, because garage sales are definitely back in full swing, and I'm going to be out this weekend checking out garage sales all over the place. So I can't wait for that. I'm sick of paying high prices at thrift stores, and I'm ready to start paying lower prices and getting higher margins from stuff I get at garage sales. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you missed last week's episode, click here to watch it now. If you like these videos, I do them every week, so hit that subscribe button and join me next Monday. Thanks, and see you soon.